All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to In the Pocket podcast. This is episode 2. We appreciate y'all that are joining us back here. We got off to a good start last week. I feel good about it. Mike, how you feel about it, bro?
Hey man, good to be here. I feel good about it. I think we're just gonna get better and better, and then we got a few big dogs lined up to join us in the show, man. But I'm definitely excited.
Yeah, man. So episode 2 is on the clock. We're going to be covering the NFL draft. Well, not covering, right? Doing a quick recap of some of the notable highlights and walking through each kind of division and the teams and kind of giving you guys our thoughts on how everything shook out. I could tell you there are some moments that made me go, what the heck am I watching? Especially when I was sitting there watching my guys, the Rams. There was a couple thoughts that was going through my head. I know Mike probably got tired of me calling him and texting him and telling him how like upset I was of what was happening this weekend. But somehow we survived. We got through it. Before we get started, though, selfish shout out, selfish plug to my Liverpool Football Club, champions of Europe, won the Premier League title today, and we still got 4 games to go. So if you're wondering why is he in the red and he's a Rams fan, it's still this is a football podcast, so I'm wearing the champions of Europe right now. All right. So shout out to the Liverpool club, uh, champions finally unseating Manchester City. But now let's get into a different kind of football on the other side of the pond, right? American football. I know now we ended last week's episode giving you guys our top 10. And to be fair, the rules that we set were we're going to assume that there's going to be no trades. Jacksonville heard that and decided they were going to mess that all up. So we had at number 1, both Mike and I agreed Cam Ward was going. Um, the Titans also agreed at number 1 that Cam Ward was going to go. Then at number 2, we had the New York Giants staying put. Cleveland Browns staying put. We had Cleveland staying put, and I had them taking Abdul Carter. Mike had them taking Travis Hunter. Now, Mike was right. Travis Hunter went second, but he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So shout out to my boy Mike with that. And then we had at number 3 the New York Giants. I had Shador Sanders going to the New York Giants. Mike had Abdul Carter. He nailed the pick because he's like that. So the first 3 picks, even though you didn't nail the team for the second one, you nailed the order. So the first 3 picks, Mike, you were on it. And then at number 4 for the Patriots, I had Travis Hunter. You had Ashton Genty. We were both wrong. Will Campbell. We should have known better. It's Mike Vrabel. He's going to build that line before he builds anything else. That's our bad. And then at number 5, I had Tyler Warren. You had Mason Graham. Again, I had right here, not the Browns. Not the Browns here. So the Browns actually moved back to 5 from Jacksonville. And they end up taking Mason Graham. So Mike is 4 for 5 in the order thus far. Like somebody really ought to hire my guy. And then at 6, the Raiders stayed put for us at 6. I picked Ashton Genty. You picked Will Johnson. Finally, I got another point on the board. Ashton Genty stays at 6. Mike gets to hate watch him for the rest of his career, or at least for this first contract. And then at 7, we had to the Jets. I had Mason Graham. You had Tyler Warren. The Jets picked Armand Membu, tackle, which we talked about, right? Aaron Glenn was going to start building this Jets team kind of the way that they went about rebuilding the Detroit Lions team, right? We're going to take care of the trenches, make sure that that's solidified, make sure that we can protect the guy that is under center, whoever that's going to end up being. I know this year is going to be Justin Fields, so they go tackle. Not a bad decision. Then at 8, both you and I had Matthew Golden going here. We were right. They were going with the receiver here. They just went with Tedrow McMillan here instead of Matthew Golden. We'll see how that shakes out for them. I think that might have been a little bit of a mistake, but I digress. Then at number 9, I had Will Campbell because they need help on the offensive line. You had Jackson Dart because they do need a quarterback. They went with the offensive line help, and they drafted Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. Love the pick. I think that was the right thing to do. And then Our final picks, right, at number
100%.
10, I had Ted McMillan. This is where you had Will Campbell. We were both wrong. The Bears said, I don't care if we have Cole Kmet. We need more weapons. And they went Colston Loveland and broke my heart and ended all the dreams of the Rams acquiring the services of my favorite Michigan Wolverine this season. So that's where we were when we left off in the last episode. So now let's get into it, man. I want to talk about the draft, and we're going to start just division by division, conference by conference. So we're going to start in the NFC with the NFC North, and the first team that we're going to be talking about, Mike, the Bears. Talk to me about how you think the Bears did with this draft and some notable names came off the board.
Yeah, I feel like the Bears had a really good draft. You can kind of see what's important to Ben Johnson. He knows he's a phenomenal play caller, and he doesn't want Caleb to have any excuses talk about building the offense, the playbook for, based on what they have. So adding Colston Loveland, they kind of took the Raiders approach of last year, doubling down that tight end, right? Brock Bowers and the one they got the year before. I'm like having a break.
Myers.
Yeah,
Almost,
Myers
yeah.
from Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
So they took that approach. Cole Kmet has, I think, a year left. Colston Loveland is a dog. And then I thought they would draft a tackle next. What they end up doing is getting Luther Burden, who I didn't know he would get out the first round. Electric, one of the best yak players. Actually, he's the best player for yards after catch in this draft. The third round, they drafted. I'm going to go through like just these real quick. Is they got their tackle of the future, right? He'll be a swing tackle for now. I don't know if he'll beat out anybody. And then in the fourth round, they really adjusted he with Shamar Turner. Actually, the fourth pick in the second round, Shamar Turner from Texas A&M D tackle, who I think is an absolute dog. So I love what they did. They got some depth on their offensive line. I think they could have attacked their defensive line a little bit more. But I really like what they did, man. They had a really solid draft. I give it personally like a B plus. Some of their later picks I'm not sure about, but those early ones they hit those really nicely.
Yeah, man. When I think about the Bears, I text you. I was like, dude, how many weapons does Caleb Williams need? Like, he has everything that you could possibly want as a quarterback. And I know some Bears fans are like, hey, but what about the offensive line? We need more help on the offensive line. You guys have to wait and see how some of that offseason acquisitions through a free agency, how some of those guys shake out. You guys did acquire some services to put some beef in the middle. I think this tackle, Ozzie Trapillo out of Boston College, I think he could end up starting working his way into the rotation for you guys as well. But you got to be really excited about the absolute insane amount of weapons that they grabbed in this draft. And that, like, Caleb Williams is spoiled for choice once he snaps the ball. It's DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet, Luther Burton, Colston Loveland. Like, there's two, maybe three corners on the field at a time. Somebody's going to be open, you would think.
100%.
But anyway, that's the Bears. They start off really, really strong. With moving on from the Bears, I want to go to the reigning NFC North champions, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, man, Detroit had a very Detroit draft. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't be mad about it. I thought a few of them potentially were overdrafts, but at the same time, they reinforced their strengths. Like Tyler Williams from Ohio State, definitely early for him. He is a run stopper, has no pass rushing prowess, but he will keep the linebackers clear. He'll allow the pass rushers to pass rush. He'll take up two bodies. Tate Rutledge from Georgia, I love that pick. That was my favorite pick from them the whole draft. Doubling down at guard, man. I don't think it's ever a bad thing. Like if you have a weakness or you want to create some competition, doubling down. So in the fifth round, they went and got Miles Frazier, who has the potential to start from LSU, and then Isaac Tesla from Arkansas, one of the fastest receivers in this draft. He's like 6'3", 6'4", in a 4.35 or 4.37 at that size. He's going to have to get coached up a little bit as far as bringing in the catch, but they have some good receivers there that he'll go behind, and he's a very explosive player, man. So I thought they had a good draft, man. I thought a few of them were overdrafts, but again, people thought Jack Campbell was overdraft. People thought Jameer Gibbs was overdraft, but they fit into that culture and they plug and play. So I'm definitely anticipating their line being reinforced, not being a weakness. And the difference is they don't have Aaron Glenn anymore to make up for some of these injuries. So on the defensive end, so having some depth on the defensive side is never a bad thing in my opinion.
100%. I think when I looked at this draft with them taking the two guards, I was like, oh, so you guys are just going to take a page out of Philly's book where you can never have enough good offensive linemen, right? One man goes down, another man goes up, nobody misses a beat. And when you have a quarterback like Jared Goff, who is, I think Jared Goff is a really solid quarterback in this league, but I think everybody in the league knows the limitations of Jared Goff, that if you put him under duress, he's not the best quarterback on the planet. So them reinforcing that offensive line, making sure that they have depth there, making sure that they're creating competition and putting the best players available to protect their quarterback that they just paid again last year, right? I think it's a fantastic idea. This is a Detroit draft, right? I can't look at any of these picks really and be like, man, these are some sexy picks. It's gritty, it's bite your kneecaps style stuff. I mean, it's Dan Campbell, right? It's a meat and potatoes kind of draft for him. So I nothing flashy. I don't think Detroit got markedly better, but I think these are all players that could potentially contribute. So for me, I'm looking at probably about a B plus on this one. All right. Moving off of the Detroit
100%,
Lions.
man. I like their draft again. Like they're my bad, a little bit of lag.
Oh, it's all right. You good. You good. Listen, moving off of the Detroit Lions, we're going to move over to the Minnesota Vikings, where presumably the J.J. McCarthy era is going to begin this year. Um, Mike, talk to me about what Minnesota was doing here. What do you think the game plan is? Because I really like some of these picks. I was telling my dad, who's an avid Vikings fan, like, man, you should be really excited about the potential of what's going to happen this year. It all hinges on the guy that they have under center, but I like what they were putting together.
Yeah, they didn't have a ton of picks because of the JJ McCarthy trade from last year. Obviously, traded up to get him, so they only ended the day with 5 picks. But I think one of the biggest things they did is address that guard weakness that they've had for a few years. They had Dalton Reiser where he came up from the Broncos, but they didn't love him as like a every down gritty. Like he's a cool pass blocking guard, run blocking. He didn't really get after it the way they wanted to. So getting Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, second best guard in the draft. In my opinion, phenomenal guard. He pass blocks well. He's an absolute nasty run blocker. Is very agile for the offense they run. They kind of run that Mike Shanahan type offense. So I like that pick. Adding depth at receiver with Ty Felton from Maryland. He's a playmaker. He's a beast. He's somebody that isn't going to threaten what they have, but he does balance out. They had a few injuries a few times with their receivers, so he'll balance that out and develop into a playmaker. And my favorite pick of theirs was their 6th-round pick outside of Donovan Jackson, which was Kobe King, linebacker from Penn State. He's a tackle machine. He's very athletic. He's not going to be like a line up and guard that running back coming out the backfield, but he can cover his zone pretty well. He's not the biggest guy. He's only like 6 foot, 6'1", but he's definitely athletic, old school kind of linebacker with some ability to cover. And then a sneaky pick in the 6th round, man, Gavin Bartholomew is huge. He's like 6'5" from Pitt. He's just a physical, he'll box you out kind of tight end. So they had a very solid draft considering the picks that they had or limited picks they had. But I'd give them a solid B. I wish they would have traded back and acquired a few more picks, but they did attack a few needs. And I don't think they were as deep as they could have got. I don't think they got as deep as they could have got, but they did reinforce a few positions of need, I think.
Well, man. Well, that leaves one last team in the NFC North, and that's the Green Bay Packers. The site, the team that is the home team of the draft this year. And, man, shout out to Green Bay. Watching the 3 days of draft coverage, like, I did not think that people would flock to Green Bay the way that they did. Really liked that the weather and stuff was cooperated. Like, it looked like a scene that looked like something that I wanted to be a part of. And outside of me just, going for a game, I wouldn't know what to do in Green Bay, but it looked like the attendance was massive. And for a quote unquote small market team, right? Like, I think the NFL showed up and showed out. So really, really great job to them hosting this weekend. But anyway, to their draft, okay? I'm going to start Green Bay because I just need to get this off my chest. I screamed at the TV because it's pick 23. We were within striking distance of acquiring this player. And I'm screaming, McVay, please trade up and go get Matthew Golden. But I thought we would be safe because Green Bay has not taken a wide receiver in the first round since before I had kids. So there was no way that I saw Matthew Golden coming off the board here. And that's where he did. And that's where my night started to spiral. Um, that's where we started, throwing a few things back. But overall, like I think Green Bay shocked a lot of the fans, getting aggressive, going offense. They had that kind of carousel of receivers last year that they're okay, but you really need a true number one, somebody that's going to separate themselves. I think that's definitely going to be Matthew Golden from now on. They go ahead and they get Anthony Belton from NC State. That I think they've been needing a tackle for a while, bro. And I think Jordan Love is going to be better upright for this guy. I think he's an instant plug and play starter for them. And then they went back to the well for offensive weapons in the third round and got Savion Williams from TCU. Like I said, more targets, more weapons for Jordan Love. You could tell that they want to be aggressive, and they should be, because if you look at the landscape of what just happened during this free agency period and this draft for the other teams that they have to compete with in this division, you're gonna have to be able to score points. I don't care how good your defense is. These offenses in this division are too potent for you to just hang your hat on your defense and hope that you can win, putting up 17 or 21 points. You're going to have to be able to score in bunches. So I like what they did there. I like that they went and doubled up on edge and back-to-back picks on the 4th and 5th round with Baron Sorrell out of Texas and Colin Oliver out of Oklahoma State. And then they went and got big in the middle with Warren Brinson, defensive tackle out of Georgia, in the 6th. So really, really solid draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Matthew Golden, no matter what if they pick a kicker and a punter in the second and third round after drafting Matt Golden, I think they still would have had a great draft, because that guy is literally what they need. He'll immediately be their best receiver. They dealt with a lot of injuries. Jordan Love didn't progress last year the way that some fans would have hoped he did progress. So adding more weapons, again, Matthew Golden and Savion Williams from TCU will give them depth. They turned really a weakness for them with the injuries with Christian Watson, etc. Into a strength now. Anthony Belton, like you said, huge tackle, really powerful. I think he has the ability to play both tackle positions. And they do like linemen that have a little bit of flexibility. He's a really powerful guy. And then doubling down on edge, Green Bay is always going to try to have a physical, competitive defense in that cold weather, and I think they did a phenomenal job of adding to that. And really, I think a sneaky pick, the last pick, John Williams from Cincinnati. He's a guard that, while he might not start right away, he's somebody that within a few years, I think could develop into a starter, or worst case, like a really strong depth piece on the interior of their offensive line. So picking up somebody that has the potential to be a contributor in the next few years, he'll probably make the roster immediately with some of the offensive line struggles that they've had. In the 7th round, I think is a phenomenal thing for them.
So we're gonna go down south to NFC South now. Gonna start with the Dirty Birds of Atlanta. Shout out to the Atlanta Falcons. Y'all did something I didn't think was possible, and you set us up for the future. The Atlanta Falcons at the 26th pick trade with the Los Angeles Rams, acquiring the Los Angeles Rams 3rd round pick and the 26th pick in exchange for a 1st round pick next year and their 2nd this year. I got 2 1st round picks. I went from having no 1st round picks a few years ago to 2. Les Snead is not going to know what to do with himself. So that just tells me we're looking quarterback next year. But I digress. They doubled down on defense in round 1. With their first pick at 15, Jalen Walker, edge out of Georgia, right? They follow the Philadelphia Eagle formula, which is if you need defense, just get a Bulldog. Just get a Bulldog. It seems it's been working out for Philly. Then they go back, James Pierce, edge from Tennessee, who I thought was a great player, but I thought they reached a little bit here. But they liked the guy. They went and they got him. Round 3, Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, I thought was a really, really good pick for them. He's he's a person that's really going to help them in that DB area, right? Protecting, the deep ball and stuff. And he's a headhunter, bro. He's a playmaker. Um, and then Billy Bowman Jr. out of Oklahoma, they, like I said, they went back to back-to-back safeties. And then with their last pick of the draft, Jack Nelson out of Wisconsin, it's a guy that it's not going to start for you right away, but I think it's somebody that can develop into a quality starter. If you guys know anything about Wisconsin, they put out linemen constantly. So I think there's a chance that he'll make the 53 for sure.
Yeah, no, I like their draft overall. Well, I like two picks of their draft. They didn't have a ton of picks. Obviously, Jalen Walker, he was projected to go anywhere from like 7 to 20, right? And then picking that up. I did not see them trading back up for James Pierce. I really think James Pierce, they gave up a lot to get him, right? He has a lot of talent, but he has some of those character concerns, which is one of the reasons that he fell down the board. Yeah, talent wise, he's one of the better edges, top 3 edge in this draft class. Probably after Abdul Carr and Jalen Walker, but some of those character concerns is my thing. And interesting thing, I think this was the first time as a franchise the Falcons drafted a player from Georgia in the first round. I think I heard that during the draft. So
Oh, wow.
definitely shout out to Jalen Walker for that. Xavier Watson, absolutely love that pick, and then Billy Bowman was my least favorite pick of theirs. He missed, probably 17 to 18% of his tackles. I believe I was reading, and I definitely that's somebody that their defense is a weakness. Hopefully, Raheem Morris is assuming he can coach them up, but I didn't love that move. I thought they would have dipped in and got a corner there. That's still a need for them. And Jack Nelson, you hit it on the head. Huge tackle. He's somebody that can really play right tackle, develop into a star in the future. And obviously, the only 5 picks, I think all 5 of these guys will make the roster. I would give them probably I'll give them a solid like B minus for this draft, right? Jalen Walker, Xavier Watson, Jack Nelson. I did like James Pierce. I feel like they could have got a little bit later and not gave up a future first when they're already short on picks this year. And Billy Bowman is somebody that I don't think would have went until late day 3 if they didn't draft him.
Fair. Our next team in the NFC South that we're going to be talking about, Carolina Panthers, man. This could be the year that the Panthers get a little bit exciting. Mike, I'll let you go ahead and start with this one because right off the bat, I was like, well, maybe not.
Yeah, man. Me and you weren't really T-Mac fans, right? I definitely wish them all the best of luck down there, but they definitely gave Bryce Young. They're doing the thing that the Chicago did and trying to take away excuses. So they gave him a big physical receiver. He'll be the biggest receiver on that team. Really can line up in the slot, take up space like a tight end, can make some catches. So we'll see if they can develop that rapport. I thought they needed a receiver like a Matthew Golden after getting Xavier Legette last year. That's 2 big guys. Neither one of them very fast. But hopefully he could take the top off that defense and gets a little more physical at the catch. I really love their second round pick, getting Nick Scorton, high upside defensive end. Has a lot of potential, and then doubling down because their defense was one of their weaknesses last year until they started to come along with Princely from Mississippi. And my favorite pick of theirs, the entire draft, or my favorite 2 picks were Lathan Ransom from Ohio State, big 6'2", 210 safety, really physical, fast, tackling machine. He'll definitely cover up a lot of mistakes. And then Cam Jackson, who's just going to eat up space. He's 6'3", 235 or 335 rather from Florida. So he'll eat up a lot of space and allow those edge rushers to get after it. And then, of course, shout out to Jimmy Horn Jr. Getting drafted in them by a 6th round. He'll immediately be their kick and punt returner, especially with their rule change this offseason. That gives them another weapon. So I don't think it was a bad thing giving them some more weapons. I would have wished they would have added to their offensive line a little bit more in the draft. They attacked it a little bit in free agency, but aside from that, man, I gave them a solid B, right? I think it was a little bit better than the Falcons, but I definitely would have liked them to attack that offensive line a little more.
Fair play. Next, we're going to go to let's go to the Saints. Yeah, let's go to New Orleans Saints, bro. This, I don't have words. I think first round, right? Kellen Banks Jr. I really, really like that pick. because, like we talked about at the top, right? I thought they were going to go Will Campbell here because I think, hey, whoever you end up having under center, protect that guy. And I think they've got a day one plug and play blue chip guy in Kelvin Banks Jr. Just a massive, massive mountain of a man. Round two is where I think the train went off the rails a little bit. And this was one of the narratives, and I don't want to get too much into it right now, but this is one of the things that was happening. We were watching Shador Sanders fall down the draft board, and there were a couple landing spots, a couple places at this point that we thought, hey, this is one of the places that he could potentially go. I think to everybody's surprise, including every single fan in New Orleans, they went with Tyler Show in the second round, which I thought was a reach beyond reach. Um, didn't have a strong combine at all. Did not have a strong combine performance. Definitely one of the older quarterbacks in the draft. I think you said last week gives you Brandon Wheaton vibes, and that's kind of where he's at for me. Obviously, much more mobile and versatile than Brandon Wheaton, but yeah, man, I was really confused by this draft from that. Like, it put me off of them for the rest of the draft. So I'm gonna shut up and let you take it over because I couldn't bear to watch what was going on there.
Yeah, no, Kelvin Banks, again, I think he has the potential to be the second best tackle in this draft. I'll talk about who I think will be the best tackle in this draft, but I think he's going to come in right away, really athletic. Their previous tackle retired this summer, so they needed to fill that gap. Tyler Showman, you kind of hit on the head. I don't see what they were seeing. Shador at Jackson State had more passing yards than Tyler Show had in 7 years in college, right? Dealt with a lot of injuries, those injury concerns. He'll be 26 when the season starts, so there's a lot of things that I just don't love, but Kellen Moore obviously thinks he can get something out of him, or maybe they think Derek Carr could be back a little bit sooner. So maybe they thought he could be pro ready beginning of the season, can catch his offense a little bit better. Derek Carr will come back. They can't get out of that contract right away. Vernon Broughton from Texas, man, huge D tackle, massive man that will help their defense a lot. And Danny Stutzman, man, was probably my second favorite draft pick of theirs. Athletic linebacker from Oklahoma, phenomenal coverage guy. He's going to be able to, cover tight ends, cover receivers. He tackles very well. That's a guy I was surprised slipped into day 3, but he definitely went towards the top of day 3. Devin Neal in their 6th round, man, guy from Kansas, the running back. I think he's somebody that, again, this running back class was deep. He was one of my top 12 running backs, right? Like towards the end of that, but he's somebody that could definitely develop into a starter. He's going to be more of that thunder to Alvin Kamara's lightning. Stayed pretty healthy over his career at Kansas, so that'll give them a little bit of stability. A young guy in the future, Alvin Kamara only has a few years left, probably, so he'll probably take over the starter eventually. And then Fadil Diggs from Syracuse, lots of upside as a pass rusher, newer to the position, but he's somebody, man, that I think if they can pull out of him those athletic traits that he has, they can turn that into production. He's a guy that'll be a still late round for them. Worst case scenario will be a situational pass rusher for him if they develop him. He's somebody that has the potential at pick 254 to develop into a starter in a few years and definitely contribute on special teams. So I like their draft overall. I didn't love the Tyler Show. I think they could have traded up and got Jalen Milroe. I think it would have even been better to draft Will Howard or Quinn Ewers late in the draft. He went undrafted, but I'm not the biggest Tyler Show fan. We'll see how this works out for them, but again, I think they added some foundational pieces. We talked about last week that it's going to take them a few years to get this program together, and about half this class will help them do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. What Kendrick say? Turn his TV off. That's what I wanted to do after the Tyler Show pick. Last team in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think they had the best draft out of the division. I really like what they did, but I'll let you go ahead and start it off there, Mike.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, man. Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State left Ohio State Receiver University as the all-time leading receiver. So that lets you know about his game. He's a big slot guy. He's very heady, can run routes. He'll be a good Mike Evans replacement in the future. He's somebody that can kind of hop in right away and play. Benjamin Morrison in the second round, really towards the end of the second round, he probably would have went day one if he didn't struggle with some of those injuries. But he's a big physical corner, and they've had a phenomenal history of drafting corners in the second round that have turned into solid starters for them, and I think he'll follow that as well. Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, athletic, not as big as Benjamin Morrison, but he is a little bit quicker, high twitch guy. And I loved, bro, the rest of their picks with David Walker from Central Arkansas, phenomenal edge. Elijah Roberts from SMU. He was at University of Miami, transferred there when Brett Lashley went there. That's gonna he's a good 3-4 defensive end. He can be a pass rusher in a 4-3 defense. He needs to work on his run defense a little bit more. But Tez Johnson, he fell to the seventh, not because he's not talented, not because he can't get open, but I think he came to the combine at like 160 pounds. So hopefully that's somebody they can scheme open a little bit. I think worst case he'll be a phenomenal punt returner, kick returner. I was hoping the Broncos were going to draft him, reunite him with his brother Bo Nix, but I think they had everybody that they drafted has a very, very good shot to make their roster and contribute pretty early on.
Yeah, Tampa kind of followed the method that I like when drafting, which is you're drafting for need, and I think they addressed some of these things. Even though they re-signed Mike Evans, right? They re-signed Chris Godwin. Godwin over the last few years has had some injury concerns. Evans can't go forever. I like Ibuka filling in for either of those two at some point in the season. And I think he is going to see the field, end up being that third receiver for them. And then they didn't have any corners to speak of for a while. So I really like the fact that they went and attacked that. And then just getting a little bit more feisty off the edge. The Tez Johnson pick for me, I like Tez Johnson, the human. I don't like receivers that are smaller than me. And I'm not talking about in stature. I'm talking about overall. I think you said 160 pounds. I think you're being generous. I think he weighed in at like 150, 154. And I know, anybody that's paying attention, you see the Rams flag in the background. You're like, but don't y'all have it? Yes. And if you guys had seen my reaction to when we drafted that receiver who will remain nameless right now, I was not happy either. So outside of that, again, not knocking the talent. I'm just that's a small person out there. So just be safe out there, Tez. Hope he's made it this far. Hopefully he has what it takes to stay healthy. But if he doesn't, Tampa's used to having people on reserve in their wide receiver room.
Absolutely.
All right. NFC East time. This is a division that I think is I want to say the people that were sitting at the top of the division are still going to be at the top of the division. And I want to start with the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles, man, it's frustrating that teams let them draft, just like the Ravens. Teams let them do exactly what they want to do. They had a phenomenal draft, in my opinion. So first, they got Jahad Campbell from Alabama. Linebacker became a little bit of a need for him with some of the injuries they had. And the Kobe Dean might not be back at the beginning of the season. Might take him a little bit longer. So I think that was a phenomenal pick. He's a very versatile piece at linebacker. Andrew Mbuka from Texas, absolute playmaker. Again, I don't think that was a need for them with how they attacked their secondary in the offseason, but they doubled down on something that's a strength with some young folks in the secondary. Ty Robinson, the fourth round, one of my favorite defensive linemen in his draft, 6'5", 288, really physical guy. He's going to be a phenomenal rotation piece for them. Kyle McCord, they have a philosophy of always drafting quarterbacks. They've done a good job of that. He's somebody that I think they can develop into a high quality backup. And Cameron Williams in the 6th round, that's a future starter in my opinion. I don't understand how he slipped. I know he's 6'6". There are some weight concerns at his like 340-ish range, but very powerful run blocker. He's probably solely a right tackle. He might be able to move in the guard, but they just added to his strength, man. That's a guy that can come in and contribute right away. And Smell Munden from Georgia as well, man. So they got a linebacker from Alabama and Georgia. I thought they just doubled down their strengths, man. Their D-line, their linebackers really attacked that. I would have liked to see them add another receiver. I know everybody's like, well, they have these great receivers, but having some receiver depth, you can't have too many receivers. But their offense is a physical offense, and all they did was double down on that. I think they're going to be a problem. They didn't get worse this offseason. They did lose some people, but they draft about a year in advance, and they're sticking to that. And I think they're going to be solid this year, man.
Yeah, man, the rich get richer. Like you and I talked about this off the show. What does Howie Roseman have on these other GMs in the league? Like he's got to have something. He's got to have something diabolical because it just seems like
Something.
every year, everybody just happens to move out their way and let the perfect player fall right into their lap. Now, I get it. They traded up from 32 to 31 to get Jahad Campbell. It's nothing to them. It's nothing to them. You mentioned Cameron Williams as one of the late round steals. It's so funny you said Cameron Williams because I was thinking Miles Hinton when they took him is a steal as well at tackle. And that's not just because I'm a Michigan fan. Like Miles Hinton is a massive mountain of man. He's 3'7", like 320. I mean, not 3'7", 6'7", 323 pounds. And he's an elite pass pro. Now he struggles in the run game. He struggles with the aggression and things of that nature. But he's got really crazy bend. And I thought for him to be in the sixth round, I was like, nobody else saw the potential. Nobody else saw the vision. Like, I don't get me wrong. I like Cameron Williams as well. I think both of those guys ending up in Philadelphia is the most Philadelphia thing that could possibly happen, man. Like, they just get linemen for days and days and days and days and days. Rich get richer, bro. Enough of that. I'm upset just thinking about what happened. Like every time I think about the Jahad Campbell thing, it irritates me. Let's go back to what I heard is America's team. Uh, the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys, man, they don't do a lot well, especially in free agency, especially winning in the playoffs, especially winning Super Bowl since the '90s. But what they do very well is draft. Tyler Booker, the best guard in this draft. He's a very powerful guard. But he some people didn't like him that early, but he's going to absolutely fit the system that they have. Donovan Ezaraku was a potential late first round pick, early day 2 pick, and they got him. And Siobhan Revel from East Carolina was absolutely a first round talent. If he didn't tear his ACL miss last year, he would have went in the first round. So for them to be able to get 3 guys that, in my opinion, were top like 30 prospects, they hit this draft out of the park. They had one of the better drafts, in my opinion. And then adding Jaden Blue to that running back room from Texas, he's going to give them some speed. 4.3 something, I think he ran at the combine to balance that out with Javonte Williams. That kind of gives them some lightning there. And then, man, Ajanai Cornelius from Oregon in the 6th round. He's somebody that can come in right away and be a swing tackle. He has a few technical things to work on in run blocking. Pass pro does that very well, but he has a few things to work on there. That's somebody that could be a starter in the future for them. They're never going to let their line be bad. So, again, I think they attacked some of those things very well, man. Siobhan Revel was my favorite pick of theirs. I wish they would have added another receiver. I mean, obviously, opposite CeeDee Lamb, they do need help at receiver. I think they could have added a tight end in this draft as well, but I think they feel confident about what they have. They made a few undrafted free agent picks that I think can compete and maybe help them out there. But, man, I love what they did, and they'll do nothing but help kickstart their run game and keep Dak Prescott healthy.
I have no comment on the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, no comment on the Dallas Cowboys. Next, New York Giants. This is one of my favorite drafts, like, period. Like, not just in this division. This was honestly one of my favorite drafts. In the first round, they take Abdul Carter, and they already have a really, really nasty defensive line. But Abdul Carter is somebody that, even though they picked up the 5th-year option on Kayvon Thibodeau, if they're wanting to move off of him after this year, there's no pressure at all for them to re-sign him, right? Abdul Carter is going to be a stalwart on this defense for years to come. Then there's Jackson Dart. Maybe shock some people. Again, this was a landing spot, a potential landing spot that I had Shedeur Sanders going to, but I can understand why they would go with Jackson Dart. Mike, I've said to you that I think that this is a poor man's Josh Allen, and this is not me saying that he has the same physical traits as Josh Allen. What I'm saying is, as a prospect coming out of college into the pros, I think his boomer bust potential is going to hinge. Can you work on his accuracy, right? And can you calm him down and help him with his playmaking decision ability? Because some of the things that he does will make you scratch your head. Um, and then some of the throws that he misses, some of the intermediate throws will make you go like, what are we doing? He's going to have to hit those throws, and if you have trouble hitting intermediate throws in college, you're going to have an even tougher time in the pros because those windows are way tighter, and that guy is not as open as you think he is. But the reason why I like Jackson Dart to the Giants here is because who was the guy that helped coach some of that out of Josh Allen? Brian Daboll, who happens to be the head
100%.
coach for the New York Giants. So I think this is a great pairing for them. I really love Darius Alexander out of Toledo. He's again, this defensive front is not going to be anything to play with. There's a reason why Philadelphia is drafting so many offensive linemen. It's to go against fronts that they're putting together here. Then they went in the fourth and they drafted Cam Scatbo. And now I know Cam Scatbo did not test well in terms of top end speed, but Cam Scatbo is like he's quicker than you think he is, and he's tough as nails, right? Like they saw last year what the benefit of a good running back is when they let their franchise running back go to their division rival and rush them all the way into the Super Bowl. So I really like this draft for the New York Giants.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We were talking about this the other day, right? So Abdul Carter, Burns, Thibodeau, Sexy Dexy, that defensive line is going to be absolutely insane for people to deal with. And you add Darius Alexander from that from Toledo, 6'3", 285, a good interior pass rusher, a very solid run defender. He could develop that a little bit more. Again, Jackson Dart, I didn't love that pick as much as some others, but you did hit on a good point. Um, if he doesn't have to play this year, this pick can turn out to be great. But if Dayball's not there in the future, then they're going to be in the situation over again if the next coach coming in can't develop them. They have Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart can learn behind both those guys. He already said Russ is going to be the starter, and we know the kind of backup that Jameis Winston is, the kind of locker room guy he is, so that can do nothing but help Jackson Dart. He really does need a little bit of time to get some of that out of him. And Cam Scatterwell, man, like second leading rusher in college football this year. I got to see him in person during the Big 12 championship game, actually in Dallas. We flew into Dallas to watch that game. And when I'm saying this guy does it all, man, he's not the fastest, but he's strong. He'll run through you. He has hands. He'll be a nice compliment to Tracy, right, that they had last year. And Marcus Mbow from Purdue has the ability to play outside. Some people don't think he'll be the best tackle, so some people think he'll slide in a guard, but they drafted him as a tackle. I think he gives them some position flexibility. The only thing I would have done, again, I gave them an A on their draft. They have one of the better drafts this year, in my opinion. The only thing I wish they would have done is added another receiver. Again, I think it would have been good. Having Brian Thompson there is phenomenal. But adding another receiver, you need 3 or 4 receivers on every team. I think they have a good solid 2, but they definitely need a little more help there. But again, they had a really good draft overall, in my opinion.
Oh man. Well, rounding out the NFC East, it's time to take command with the Washington Commanders. Um, Commanders didn't have a lot of picks, but I would also argue that the Commanders didn't really have a lot of needs. And I thought that the picks that they did make, taking Josh Connerly Jr., tackle out of Oregon early, I think, again, you want to protect that Ferrari, that Lamborghini that is Jaden Daniels, right? Let's keep him upright. Let's make sure that when he's running, it's of his own volition and not because he has to. And then they broke my heart again. This is why I didn't want to trade out of the first, because I wanted to take this guy, Trey Amos, cornerback out of Mississippi. Really like they parted ways with Emmanuel Forbes last year, and they just didn't quite have a person that was ready to step in and fill for him. And even though they picked up Mike Stransfield, right, from Michigan last year, he's going to play under in the slot a lot more. I like Trey Amos playing outside on the boundaries. And then I really like the acquisition of Jalen Lane, just getting them another weapon. I know they went and acquired Debo Samuel. We don't know what version of Debo Samuel that they're getting, but it's just another weapon for a really young, talented quarterback. And special shout out to Kane Madrano, one of CSU Pueblo's own. I know it says he's coming from the UCLA Bruins, but if you know, you know that is he's from Pueblo, Colorado. Started off his career at East, I think Pueblo East. So yeah, man.
Yeah, I love their drafts. Again, they didn't have a lot of picks, but Josh Connerly, in my opinion, was a phenomenal pickup. He's not going to be a guy that comes in right away and has everything together, but that's somebody that you can coach up and he can be a top 10 tackle in the league realistically. Trey Amos, I think, was their best pick. You hit that on the head. Jalen Lane, a little bit smaller. I just don't know what they have against drafting like a bigger receiver. Like that's the thing they do need. Debo's a do-it-all kind of guy. He's dealt with some injuries, right? Scary Terry's obviously an absolute beast, but I think they needed more of a physical receiver. Jalen Lane can return kicks from him. He's very fast, but that's the only thing I would have liked to see them do. I'll give them a solid B. I think they had probably the worst draft in their division, not because it was a bad draft for them, just because the other teams had phenomenal drafts. But if all they came away with in this draft was Josh Connerly to protect their franchise and Trey Amos to fill in that weakness at corner, that I think was phenomenal. Again, they had a great draft. I don't think it was a bad draft. I just think it was the worst draft in their division with the picks they had and what some of their division rivals did.
Fair. All right. Now we're going to my favorite division, home of my Los Angeles Rams, the NFC West. But we're not going to start with the Rams. Ha, you thought I was going to do it, but I'm not. I'm wearing red today. So I'm going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. Our dreaded rivals. I'm here for the downfall. Maybe they're on the way back up. Only time is going to tell after this draft. Mike, I don't believe in talking about them, so I'm going to let you do the dirty work here.
Yeah, they added I think the 49ers did a good job of adding some pieces that to replace some of the stuff that they lost, right? Michael Williams, I loved for them in the first round, and then doubling down again, Alfred Collins in the second round on their D line. Big physical D tackle from Texas, man. Those two guys will come in and contribute right away. Nick Martin, I thought was a little bit of a reach at that point of the draft, as well as Upton Stout, right? He's 5'8", corner from Western Kentucky. But then when they went back and got CJ West at D tackle, he is one of the absolute best run defenders in this draft. And then adding a Jordan James from Oregon. So again, their running back room was in a little bit of flux last year. They went through a lot of injuries in their running back room. Adding him to that running back room gives you somebody that's very stable. He's going to be able to contribute even if Christian McCaffrey is healthy. He'll be able to contribute to that room. So I think they had a phenomenal draft. They took some flyers like Junior Bergen from Montana. We'll see if he can make the roster. He'll probably be a practice squad player, but man, they had a lot of picks, and I think they really hit on some of those weaknesses. They focus pretty much on their defense. They added 4 players on their offense. The rest of their draft was all defense, and they had I think the most picks in this draft. I believe they had 3 7th-round picks, 2 fifths, 2 fourths, 2/3, a second, and the first. So they definitely filled needs and amplified some of the strengths that they have.
All right. Next, and this is a draft that made me sick, but I cannot sit and pretend that they didn't absolutely knock this draft out of the park. We're going to go to the Seattle Seahawks, man. This is one of those drafts that their picks made me not like my picks as much as I liked them when we picked them. They went and they started to fortify that offensive line with Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, who I thought was a good pickup there. And some people will say maybe that's not a first round. I think he's a first round guard. Then they went and got in the second round Elijah Arroyo, who I know you're very, very familiar with from the U. Some people say, hey, that's a redundancy. They already have Noah Fant. That's the same kind of guy. Big targets for Sam Darnold, not a bad thing to do. Then they go ahead and they draft what they hope is going to be their quarterback of the future, Jalen Milroe. I'm praying to God they don't know how to use this guy, that they don't know how to coach him, because he's electric when he's on. The physical tools out the gym, right? Like he has speed like Lamar. He's shifty, but he's got an arm that I think is bigger than Lamar's. I think his arm is closer to Josh Allen. Not saying he has Josh Allen's arm, it's closer to Josh Allen's arm. Again, I don't think he's ready to start day one. He has some accuracy issues and things of that nature. But if they have the right people and the right personnel around him to one, help him keep him upright, keep him from the happy feet. He's tough and he's physical. Like this is a guy that's going to run through defenders. He's going to be tough to take down. So it made me sick to know that there's this potential that's in the division. They went and took Torrey Horton from Colorado State, who I wanted in the fifth. That's big, it's fast, wasn't even all the way healthy when he did his 40 time. So he's like there's your DK replacement, less physical than DK, but somebody that's going to help take the top off of defenses is going to be a really good running partner with JSN out there. And then Robbie Outs, right, going back to the tight end market. Now they have 3 tight end sets. It lets me know that they're probably going to be looking into running some 12 personnel there. And then if Seattle doesn't do anything else, one thing that they're definitely going to continue to do is always draft a running back. They go back to the U and take Damian Martinez to join a backfield of Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet as well. Mike, tell me that that's better than what I think it's going to be.
It's not for y'all. They hit this draft out of the park, in my opinion. Gray Zabel in the Senior Bowl kind of showed that he can play. He can hang with the big dogs. He absolutely dominated that center and that guard. So that's a piece that can come plug and play. Nick Emanwari reminds me of Kyle Hamilton, right? Obviously, their head coach came over from the Ravens, and I think he'll use them in a similar fashion. Torrey Horton was one of my favorite receivers. In my opinion, he's a top 7 receiver. Coming off of a broken ankle, ran a 4.4 140. So and he said he was like at 80%. So him getting to 100%, probably in the 4.3s. A shifty guy can get around. He'll do like Tyler. He's more of a Tyler Lockett, bigger than Tyler Lockett, but that kind of speed that Tyler Lockett had can absolutely take the top off of defense. Run across the middle is not afraid of doing that. And obviously, Damian Martinez is one of my favorite picks. The fact that they got him in the 7th. He'll probably be their second string running back. He's going to be better than Charbonnet right away, in my opinion. He's going to be somebody that's going to contribute for them. He'll be their future starter there. He has to work on pass pro a little bit more, but as far as just pounding the rock, man, he's one of the more physical running backs in this draft at 6'2", 230, and he ran like a 4.5 40. So very physical running back. He doesn't fumble often. He can catch. Just has to work on pass protection a little bit. And again, Jalen Milroe in the future, if they can develop him, that kind of showed me like, hey, do they love Sam Darnold? They gave him a deal that they can get out of it for a few years, but Jalen Milroe can kind of turn into your franchise quarterback in the future if they can unlock that. And he does have a rocket, right? He has one of the best arms in this entire draft besides, Ken Ward, in my opinion. But, they actually hit this draft out of the park.
Yeah, man. So we're going to go to the desert in Arizona. This is another team that I can't lie. Like, I think they absolutely crushed the draft. They take Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Mississippi, and then they go back in the second round and get heartbreak. Will Johnson. Now I have to hate watch Will Johnson, and I loved Will Johnson in college, but now I have to hate him. Your idols become your rivals, right? Then they go back defense again. Jordan Birch for edge from Oregon. They took the linebacker Cody Simon from Ohio State, who's an absolute freak of nature. Like, I think him being in the middle, that's about as – he's not Fred Warner, but that's their version of it. If you had to go get a discount version of it, I like Denzel not Denzel Burke, Cody Simon there. But, yes, they did go get Denzel Burke, right, to help them out on the edge. I think it's funny that they went to the 2 biggest rivals in college football and took corners from each of those schools. And Denzel Burke is another big physical boundary corner for them. I just really liked the draft that they put together. Hated it as a Rams fan, but as a football fan, really love what they were putting together. Seems like they're putting the pieces together. They're going to be a much more physical team on defense next year to go with some of that potent offense that they're hoping to have.
Yeah, I thought it was a phenomenal draft for them. Walter Nolan is the youngest D lineman in this draft, very productive at 16, so he still has a lot of development to do. He'll be 21 the entirety of this NFL season, right? Um, absolute steal for them on the interior. Will Johnson, you talked about it. He has some injuries, but doubling up with Will Johnson and Denzel Burke is going to highlight that. Those are both outside corners. Will Johnson's more of a zone color corner, and Jonathan Gannon does like to mix up man and zone. Jordan Burke, I think that was a good range for him. Long, he did lose some weight. He was like 290 during the season. He showed up to the combine 6'6", 268. So I'm not exactly sure how they're going to use him. Maybe, in that maybe as a 4-3 defensive end. I liked him a little bit bulkier, but Ken Crawford, even in the 7th round, man, absolute athlete. He's a ball hawk. He'll absolutely contribute on special teams right away, and that's somebody that I think has a good chance to make the roster and contribute and be like a third safety for them. But yeah, man, they had a phenomenal draft. I would be a little bit frustrated if I was you, just like I'm a little bit frustrated with how my division drafted. So,
Oh man, there's only one team left in the NFC, and it's the Los Angeles Rams. My Los Angeles Rams. I'm not going to talk first. I'm going to let Mike talk first.
yeah, man, I loved their draft overall. Again, Terrence Ferguson, very athletic tight end. That'll arguably be one of the better tight ends that Matt Stafford's played with since he's been in Los Angeles. Josiah Stewart, pass rushing specialist from Michigan, I think was a phenomenal thing. Jarquez Hunter is a physical back, not the fastest guy in the world, but very physical, padded out. I thought instead of him, that would have been a good range for them to add a receiver or a corner because there are still a few corners on the board. I think they could have took Ty Hamilton. They really added to their run defense. He's a big physical, D tackle from Ohio State. Chris Paul Jr. Not Chris Paul like the NBA Chris
Big
Paul, but
player.
big huge middle linebacker, very quick, athletic. So I did like those picks, man. Again, I wish they would have added a corner. I wish they would have added another receiver. But I do like them addressing tight end. I do like them addressing that edge. It never is bad to make a double down on the strength. I'm a big fan of that with Hamilton doubling down there. But they had a solid draft, man. They had probably a B plus. I would give everybody else in the division an A or better. They had a B plus. I do like their picks. I just wish they would have added a corner. Big need for them. What are your thoughts on the draft?
Uh, Again, this is one of those things where I tried to explain it at the top, man. Like if you took the player in a vacuum, I really like these players. I just don't understand why we picked them. I mean, I understand why we picked them, but based off of the needs that I felt like the team had, I was a little bit confused at why we were going where we were going. I'm like you. I was like, we need an interior linebacker that can play well off the ball. I also thought that we needed help in our corner room. And I thought that we would have prioritized getting another weapon because even though we acquired, the services of Devontae Adams, we re-signed Tutu Atwell for another year, and you got Puka Nakua, who I think is going to be around for a while. I was like, I think we need another weapon, and I was just kind of disappointed that we didn't get more aggressive and go for more of those. I guess you would have said like the top tier receivers on the board, but after sitting with it for a while and watching some of the stuff, Terrence Ferguson, I think if you can't get Colston Loveland, who I know Sean McVay absolutely loved, and that is who they were trying to trade up and grab was Colston Loveland. I think Terrence Ferguson is a nice consolation prize to pick up in the second round for you. His yards after catch, really, really good. Josiah Stewart, again, I'm a Michigan fan, and I love what he did at Michigan. I think this is our Michael Hoyt replacement. So he's going to be rotational in there. The Jarquez Hunter, yes, you're right. He's a big physical back. And you said he's not that fast, but he is faster than both Blake Corum and Kyron Williams. He does have home run threat speed, but he's not the guy that is going to knock it out the park for you every single time. But you're going to regret having to tackle him. Ball
Yes.
security is a thing with him too, right? I think he has one fumble in his entire college career. So that makes me happy to see. Then the Ty Hamilton, that was a thing. Like he's good, but that made me question, like, why did we just sign Puna Ford for 3 years? And then Chris Paul Jr., Pooh is my favorite pick of our draft. Like he makes me so happy. I think he's going to come in, earn a spot immediately. I can't wait to see what I hope is going to be the pairing of him and Omar Spates. I think that's going to be great in the middle. And then Kanata Mumpfield is another guy. Again, he's not going to take the top off, but Sean McVay really loves receivers that can run damn near anything in the route tree, right? Like I think his route tree is hyper impressive. He's very clean in running his routes. He's very impressive in and out of his cuts, and he's physical at the catch point. He's not going to run by you, but like he's aggressive and he's not afraid to go over the middle. So I like the pick. I like the players. Like you, I would probably say this is a B. And again, this is one of those things where I was looking at everybody else around me and I was saying like, dang, I don't feel as great about my draft as I do about how the competition in my division improved. But that's neither here nor there. All right, done with the NFC. Thank goodness. Now we're going to the AFC North, and we're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals, who need some defense because they don't have the money to pay for Trey Henderson after after paying wide receivers and quarterbacks. So I think they know that and they understood that. With the first pick, they took Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M, who I thought was a solid pickup for them. Right, that's probably meaning this is the end of the saga for Trey Henderson. Like that's what I would think, unless he comes back to the table on a much more significantly team friendly deal. This is probably the end for him. Demetrius Knight, I really love for them. Like he's going to instantly become a captain on their defense. Super, super smart. And then Dylan Fairchild, they need more people to keep Burrow upright. That's the problem with Burrow. Like when he's upright, he'll destroy you. But keeping that guy healthy has been an issue outside of their Super Bowl year. Then they go linebacker again with Barrett Carter, and then another offensive tackle, Jalen Rivers, and then Taj Brooks from the running back from Texas Tech, who I think is going to help balance out that room that they have now that they have Samaje P. Ryan, right? Samaje P. Ryan probably going to be more of your third down back in your power packages, where Taj Brooks is going to give you a little bit more speed, being able to hit the outside and get around those corners.
Yeah, man. I think I didn't love their draft. I liked a couple of their picks. Shamar Stewart, man, is really a upside. He has all the traits. He tested well, 6'6", 290, etc. But he had 4.5 more sacks than I had in college, and I didn't play college football, right? So I just they weren't able to put it together. So hopefully he could put that together because again, he does have the traits. He's a strong run defender, but you don't draft somebody at 17 at edge to be a solid run defender when you need pass rushers, right? So again, like I don't know if that solves the Trey Henderson thing right away. That is a future replacement if they can coach that production out of him. But sacks translate. If you can get sacks in college, you can get sacks in the NFL. That's something that we've seen. And if you don't get sacks in college, you don't necessarily turn into a sack monster in the NFL. So we'll see how that goes. Demetrius Knight was my favorite pick of theirs by far. He'll come in and start right away at linebacker. Dylan Fairchild is a phenomenal guard that can come in and start for them, earn a starting spot on that line as well. That wasn't a strength for them last year. And Barrett Carter doubling down at linebacker, I thought was good. Is a smart, physical corner or linebacker rather that was at Clemson, started for 3 years. And Jalen Rivers from the U man was a very solid guy. Got coached up pretty well. He can swing into guard. I think for them he can play right tackle. I wouldn't put him at left tackle to protect your blind side necessarily. But Taj Brooks, man, a huge running back from Texas Tech, right? 5'9". You're like, he's not huge, but 215. His legs will look like tree trunks, right? He's a guy that's going to absolutely be able to fall forward. He's going to help that running game out again. They had a solid draft. I would have liked to see them attack. I would have liked to see them attack their defensive ends a little bit better. There was some more productive defensive ends that they could have got. This could have been a spot for James Pierce potentially. He would have got production right away. As a rookie from Boston College, I think this would have been a good spot for him. I think he would have been very productive here. But they're just betting on Shamar Stewart's upside, which, again, if they can coach that out of him, man, that'll be a solid draft pick for him.
Oh, man. So next we're going to go to I can't even pronounce the stadium name anymore. What was formerly Heinz Field. We're going to go visit the Pittsburgh Steelers, man.
The Acrisure Stadium or something like that?
Whatever it is, it's always going to be Heinz Field to me. If this was not the most Pittsburgh Steelers draft, like dang near every player they pick, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just a Steelers draft, and they just enhance what they already do well, which is defense. Which, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, yay! But turns out the league is being geared more towards offense. You need to find a way to score more points. Is DK Metcalf enough to help move you guys in the right direction? Totally depends on the guy that you're going to have under center, right? Uh, they have Mason Rudolph. Now, in this draft, they ended up grabbing Will Howard in the 6th, but I don't know if I feel good about this quarterback room. In spite of what I'm going to say is a pretty good draft, but again, who's the trigger man under center? Mike, go ahead and talk to us about this very Steeler-esque draft.
Very, very Steeler draft. Definitely shout out. I love the Derek Harmon pick. That's somebody that I hope the Broncos were going to draft. We'll talk about who we end up drafting, but he's somebody that was one of my favorite D tackles. Phenomenal interior pass rusher. Definitely a Cam Hayward replacement in the future. And I definitely want to give him a shout out, man. Send a well wishes to him after he got drafted. His mom did pass away, so I definitely want to make sure we give that man a shout out. But again, he's definitely a baller. He'll come in and play well. Caleb Johnson, an upgrade in my opinion over Najee Harris's production for them. A strong, physical, Steeler-ass running back. He's not going to take the top off of a defense, but he's going to pound the rock and run through your face. And Jack Sawyer, man, is like the most Ohio lineman to have, or defensive end to ever come from Ohio. Huge pass rusher. That's somebody that I think is a phenomenal picker for them as they develop into a player in the future. He'll come in on pass rushing situations now. Very strong guy. Hopefully they'll be able to get, TJ Watt figured out, but this is somebody that opposite him in the future can be a dog. Yawa Black, man, from Iowa is he's the opposite of Derek Harmon. Derek Harmon can stop the run, but he's more of an interior pass rusher. Yawa Black's a phenomenal run stopper. He needs to develop some more of those pass rusher moves. And I did like the Will Howard pick, man. He's a national championship quarterback. He's somebody that balled outright. I think letting him sit behind Aaron Rodgers likely, I'm assuming they're feeling that they're going to be able to sign him, or they would have made some different quarterback moves. Will Howard, somebody in the future that could take over for them. I think he could be Mason Rudolph out right away. But he is somebody that you don't want him to start this year, but he's 6'5", 230, big quarterback. He has a good arm on him. I give them a solid A for their draft, man. It was a very, very Steelers draft.
All right. Well, we're going to go to the Baltimore Ravens, who had themselves a Raven-esque draft. This is another one of those teams that I was like, how do you guys keep letting these particular players fall to this team? I don't get it. In the first round, Mike, they take Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia, because apparently Kyle Hamilton is not enough. And then they go back and grab Mike Green, edge from Marshall. Like, did people just forget that the Ravens were on the board? Did people forget what the Ravens specialize in and they just left these guys out there for them? These aren't, this is the 27th pick in both rounds. 26 other chances to stop them from getting these people. They went back and they got Emory Jones Jr., who I thought was a pretty good tackle out of LSU, especially given all of the issues that they've had with their tackle staying healthy during the season. I think this is somebody that's going to probably end up contributing, probably not right away, but he's going to be a depth piece for them. And then the pick that I really, really liked for them was LeJontay Wester, out of Colorado. I thought that was again, it's cool to see these people that we've been talking about, and I'm biased, right? I like seeing the CU bus people come out and get some burn. They need more weapons, right? I know they just added DeAndre Hopkins, but they need more receivers. They got Zay Flowers. They have Isaiah Likely. We don't know what's going to happen with Mark Andrews. You would think that they're going to retain him, but there's a world where they move on from Mark Andrews. And I think LeJontay Wester is somebody who can come in and contribute pretty early. He's not still in anybody's starting spot, but I think he's definitely he's going to be a special teamer and somebody that's going to probably come in on those third down packages for them.
Yeah, man, they had a phenomenal draft. Malachi Starks at 27. They made it strength to strength, so I'm assuming they're going to have to run some big nickel with three safeties out there. Malachi Starks is a very heady football player. Mike Green, really a first-round talent. The only reason he slid to the second round is because of some of the allegations he has against him right now. But clearly they felt comfortable enough After researching that they drafted him. He's definitely a very productive sack artist, and they have a history of that. Emory Jones, I think, is somebody that can come in and play right away if they needed him to. But I think allowing him to get a little bit stronger can do nothing but good. And he can play guard, he can play tackle. Um, Carson Vincent, man, from Alabama A&M, humongous D tackle, man. This guy, 6'7", 314. So he gives them some more depth on that line. I think they're going to have him more at tackle, Emory Jones potentially at guard. And Tyler Luke, man, I think drafting the kicker from Arizona, the best kicker in the draft, one of the best kickers in the draft, besides the kicker from the U, and that's not being biased, it's just a fact. But that tells you how they feel about potentially Tucker's situation, right? They had to draft somebody to bring him in there because he would absolutely got signed or drafted in the 7th round if they didn't pick him. And LaJohntay Webster, I agree with you, man. I like him a lot. He is on that smaller side as well, 5'10". He's only in his 165-ish, but he was a playmaker. He plays bigger than he is, can absolutely contribute on special teams. And two really underrated pickups for them are Aeneas Pebble from Virginia Tech, that D tackle. He's a good interior pass rusher. He's stout against the run, and then Garrett Dillinger from LSU can develop into a lineman or a special teams contributor for them on that line. I give them an A, man. They had a very solid draft from top to bottom. There wasn't a pick that I think was bad. I think maybe one or two picks won't make the team that'll make the practice squad, but very, very solid, and it makes them stronger going into this year.
All right, man. Well, last team in the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns. This was an interesting draft because this was one where we went into a situation knowing, hey, you're going to need a quarterback because I don't believe that Kenny Pickett is the quarterback of the future. We know that Deshaun Watson is not going to play this year, and even if he was healthy enough to go, he's on the out in Cleveland. Like they're done with him. They admit that was a mistake. They swung for the fences. It came back to bite them. And then you have Joe Flacco, who showed some good things on tape the last 2 years in the league, but is no longer a starting quarterback in this league. He's not a viable option for people that are serious about winning a championship. But I thought the draft started off pretty strong for them with drafting Mason Graham from Michigan, continuing to get tougher on that defensive line, putting that pressure on the middle that is going to force teams to have to double team in the middle and take some of that pressure off of Myles Garrett. I really love Carson Swishinger, the linebacker. I thought this was a heck of a pickup for them. And then Nick Chubb has been one of my favorite running backs to watch for a long, long time, and I hate the injury that happened to him because I think he should still be playing in this league on a second contract and dominating the way that he was. I hope that somebody picks him up. But if you can't roll with Nick Chubb, Quinshon Judkins is a very, very good replacement and consolation prize. I liked Harold Fannin Jr. He's not gonna work that well initially, right, to help you in the run game with the blocking and stuff like that. But he's a big target, and he's deceptively fast for a tight end. Here's where it started getting a little bit confusing for me. In the 3rd round, they take Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Dylan Gabriel is a quarterback we talked about on the first episode, dude, where him and Quinn Ewers were people that I had heard a lot about going into the college season, but by the time the season was over, radio silence on him. So I was shocked that they even remembered that he was in the draft to get him. But then they come back around in the 5th round and take Shedeur Sanders, creating a quarterback controversy where there doesn't need to be one. Just really kind of like interesting stuff. Just when I thought the Browns might be headed in the right direction, they do some Brown stuff that, hey, maybe it shakes out for them, that Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders evolves into the quarterback of the future, and now armed with 2 first-round draft picks next year, they don't have to focus on the quarterback. But, Mike, what do you make of this situation?
Yeah, I think they had a really good draft overall, minus that Dylan Gabriel pick, 100%. Mason Graham's an absolute dog, the best interior defensive lineman, arguably in this draft, besides his running mate at Michigan, Kenneth Grant. Carson Schwarzenegger, shout out to him. He is from Colorado. He played at UCLA, but he is from Colorado. And we definitely are both from Colorado, so we're going to shout out players from here. Quinshon Judkins, again, like he's a guy that'll come in right away. This pick broke my heart because I was hoping the Broncos would pick him. He would have been perfect, the bell cow in our system, but he's going to be somebody that's phenomenal there. And then Harold Fannin Jr., right? He was from Bowling Green, so they get to keep him in Ohio. Definitely has phenomenal hands, very strong hands. Will be a very productive tight end for them. And again, going back to that Dylan Gabriel thing we just talked about, Dylan Gabriel. You look at their room; they got Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders. I forgot the other quarterback they have in that room now, but there's a chance Dylan Gabriel doesn't make the roster. So to spend a third round pick on him when they went back in the fifth round and got Shador, I didn't understand. Dylan Sampson is a very much a lightning kind of running back, very fast. He had 1,500 yards at Tennessee this year. I think he had about 14, 15 touchdowns, so a very, very productive running back. I think they're going to lean more on their running backs, which I think in that offense, that play action offense is going to be a good thing. And really for Shador, this is one of my favorite picks, right? This is one of my favorite picks of the draft. One that really stood out to me was Shador Sanders. He has the opportunity to go in there and compete. He's going to really be him versus Joe Flacco. I heard the call that they made to Shador, and they said, "Hey, you're going to have to come in here, earn your job, show us the work you're going to do." And there's never been a question of his work ethic. There's never been a question of teammates loving him. I think he'll absolutely beat out Dylan Gabriel. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, he'll start off the season as a number 2 quarterback, and I think he's somebody that you can let him sit behind Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco still has a rocket attached to his shoulder. But with that being said, I think Shador Sanders can come in and compete for starting that job. You hear if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. If you have 4 quarterbacks, then you might have one. Who knows? But I think what they did create is a lot of competition in that quarterback room. It'll be professional. Again, Joe Flacco leading that. But we've seen Joe Flacco over the last few years not be able to play a whole season. He's good at some spot starts, and I think Shador Sanders has a ability. We saw them last year make a few moves and bring some different people in. So we'll definitely giving a shout out to Shador, and I'm excited to see what they do this year. And I think Stefanski has a real opportunity to keep his job, depending on how his roster shakes out.
All right, man. Well, we're gonna turn our attention to the AFC South. And we're gonna start down in H-Town, Houston. Houston Texans, man. What do you make of this? What do you make of this draft? Besides the fact that they apparently really love the entire receiving corps from Iowa State.
I absolutely love this draft for them, man. They hit on the needs they had. Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. People were like, where they kind of rank? Jaden Higgins moved up during this process, 6'4", 215 receiver. Gets out of his break. I got to see him play against Arizona State in that Big 12 championship game. Very physical receiver, very deceptive route runner. And Jalen Noel, I think, is a small but very productive receiver, 5'10". He's not small like some receivers we talked about before as far as weight-wise, but he's very quick. And Ariante Ursary, I think, is a phenomenal replacement. A lot of these reports coming out about how their line room was last year, some things they didn't like, some lack of leadership. He's somebody that's going to come in right away from Minnesota, start out left tackle for them, be able to build that into the future. Jalen Smith, I thought at round 3 was a bit of an overdraft. I think he has some potential to contribute as a special teamer right away, but he's somebody that is tough, is physical, has an instinct for the ball, but a little bit smaller than I would have liked my corner to be. Woody Marks from USC, same thing. I think there were some opportunities at that point in the draft. I would have loved to maybe see Damian Martinez go here at that point, or a few of these other running backs. Woody Marks is fast. We'll see how he rolls with that offense. But my absolute favorite pick of this draft, besides Ariante Ursary, for this team specifically, was Jalen Reed from Penn State. Big physical, 6'2", 213-pound safety. I think they're going to get a lot out of him. He's a beast. I think he's somebody that has a chance to earn a starting spot or some playing time as a 6th-round draft pick. And then Luke Lackley from Iowa, very phenomenal. Iowa tight ends we know can pass block or run block rather. He's somebody that'll come in right away there and develop more as a pass catcher. But I give their draft, man, a solid A as well. I think it would have been a little bit higher if they would have maybe drafted a different corner and running back, but it's something that a lot of these guys will contribute right away.
Man, next team, the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts acquire the services of one Tyler Warren. I love this landing spot for Tyler Warren. I don't know who his quarterback is going to be. You would think it's going to be Anthony Richardson. Could be Riley Leonard. Could be Daniel Jones. Who knows? But I like I like the thought of him with a functional quarterback, whatever of those three can. I like the gifts that Tyler Warren and the traits that he brings to the team. I think them going edge with their second round pick, getting more aggressive on that defense, right? They were in a lot of close games within their division last year, and it was combination of two things, right? They were either games where the offense just refused to score, or the defense just refused to stop the opposing offense, like just could not when it mattered the most. In my opinion, this wasn't the strongest draft. They addressed some needs at corner, but I think I'm looking up and down on this, like I think they had opportunities to come away with better players, and then really outside of the top three picks, that the Tyler Warren, JT, uh, do not. I'm not pronouncing his name. The kid from Ohio State, and then Justin Whaley from Minnesota. I can't say that I'm in love with the rest of these picks.
Yeah, man. I think I vary a little bit differently from you. I love this draft. I think the draft is a little bit better than the Texans, but Tyler Warren, we both agree, has the highest upside. A very phenomenal yak tight end in this draft. JT was a very productive edge at Ohio State. Justin Wally at Minnesota, same thing. One of my favorite running backs, man, you talked about, I think offline. I don't know if we mentioned on the show last week was DJ Giddens. So for them to be able to get him in the fifth round, phenomenal. He's 6'1", 203, grinded out back. He gets better as the game goes on. Riley Leonard, I thought was unnecessary, right? He's kind of a repeat of a Daniel Jones, in my opinion, at this point. And they're working with Anthony Richardson, but we definitely know they have a type at quarterback. So doesn't have really good arm strength, isn't the most accurate. Uh, Somebody that if Bill Belichick was the coach, he'd probably be like, hey, we're gonna line you up a receiver, some of the athletic traits you have, but we'll see what they do with him. And Tim Smith from Alabama, I think is a guy that they could develop into a player, right? And Hunter from Wisconsin, Hunter Wohler, is somebody that can come in and contribute on special teams. But I think they hit some needs, and some of these guys were team captains that can kind of reinforce some of the weaknesses that they did have. Because you hit it on the head, they did lose a lot of close games, but again, I think their draft was probably my second favorite draft in their division.
Mm. And then let's go to the home of the number one overall draft pick in this year's draft, the Tennessee Titans. Mike, talk about your guy Cam and his new home.
Cam Ward, absolute dog. And the only thing I didn't like about one of the things I didn't like about this draft is, obviously Shador sliding, but everybody talking about everybody else while Cam Ward was getting drafted. I feel like he was one of the least heralded number one overall draft picks, but an absolute dog. Changed the Miami offense. If Miami would have had a defense, there was a very good conversation to be in the playoffs and potentially compete for a national championship. So I do love him. Wolofimi Aladaho from UCLA. I know I messed up his last name. A phenomenal pass rusher, man. Like they had a phenomenal linebacking core last year. He's an edge rusher that's a straight dog, man. And then Kevin Winston from Penn State. I love him. I thought he was a very physical ball hawking safety from Penn State. They had a really good safety tandem. And then be able to get Gunnar Helm in the fourth round, and tight end's been a need for them for a very long time. He's not the fastest tight end. He's not the best blocker, but he does both well. He'll definitely be in some of those two tight end sets. I love the Jackson Slater pick from Sacramento State. He's a smaller school guard, but he's somebody that will absolutely earn a starting position in a few years. And Alec Aomanoa from Stanford was a receiver that a lot of people thought would go day two, maybe late second, early third round. He slipped into the fourth. He gets contested catches. He's a quick receiver. Has to work on his route running a little bit, but he definitely comes down with the ball. He does not have a problem catching the ball, which is phenomenal. And then Kalen Mullings from Michigan, right? Had a good year. Kind of came out of nowhere, right? He didn't have all the fanfare going into the year at Michigan, but he definitely is going to add to that. So again, I thought their draft, they hit it out of the park, man. Phenomenal draft for them, and I think they finally hit on their franchise quarterback with Cam Ward, which is a phenomenal thing for them.
All right. Last but not least, in the AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars. Mike, how do you feel about this draft? Is there a new era in Jacksonville finally?
Yeah, man, Duval, right? Uh,
Oh.
First of all, coming up to get Travis Hunter, obviously was a phenomenal move. He was arguably the best prospect in this draft. Some people have Bill Carter, some people had Travis Hunter. I'm definitely a Travis Hunter fan. They had needs at wide receiver and they had needs at corner, and they traded a first round draft pick for next year, but they really got two players, right? They got
Mhm.
they got Travis Hunter who can play both ways, so I thought that was phenomenal. And then they doubled down in the third round and got Caleb Rasnow from Tulane, who's a definite ball hawk. He'll contribute. And then Wyatt Millum from West Virginia played tackle at West Virginia. Played inside at the Senior Bowl. He's somebody that can come in and help that right away. I think what they did with those first two of those actually, and then the next pick with Bashul Tootin, who 5'9", 210 receiver, ran like a 4.3 something 40. Phenomenal running back, a good balance to Trevor or ETN. Um,
Mhm.
but with three of those first four picks, what they did is they took away some of the excuses for Trevor Lawrence, right? They added playmakers at positions of need for them. And Wyatt Millum is not quite. He's going to be a phenomenal guard. He's not quite what we have at guard, right? For the
Mhm.
Broncos, or we have some nasty guards there. But I think he's somebody that can develop into something like that. And Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame, not the fastest linebacker, but he's physical, more of an old school throwback linebacker. And I love Ray Lane from Navy as a safety. He's somebody that will absolutely come in and contribute on special teams. He'll be a good sub package safety. So I definitely want to give them a shout out. But they had a phenomenal draft, and I don't think it was a bad thing to just take that swing and draft up and trade for Travis Hunter. So
All right, man. Let's head to the AFC East. We're going to start with Josh Allen, fresh off a new contract extension, fresh off of a new engagement to Haley Steinfeld, which if you haven't seen Sinners, go see Sinners. I know if I was Josh Allen and I was watching that movie, I would be punching air, even though I know she's coming home with me at the end of the night. I would be punching air watching that film. I'm gonna just say that if y'all haven't seen it, go see a movie. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But the Buffalo Bills, Mike, go ahead and take this.
they had a phenomenal draft. They started off with Maxwell Harrison, who was arguably the best corner in this draft. Ran a 4.28 from Kentucky. He's gonna. They've been taking some swings at corners for a while. I think he's gonna probably answer that bell for them. And then going down in the second round again, T.J. Sanders from South Carolina, the absolute offensive line record at defensive tackle. Right, he's somebody who's gonna. They've been trying to add some depth to that defense, and then doubling down with Deion Walker, who's 6'6", 331 pounds. So they really fixed the interior of that D line. And then in the third round, getting Landon Jackson from Arkansas, who's 6'7", right? So you got a 6'7" edge, 6'7", 270, 6'6" D tackle, who's 6'6", 331. They added a lot of beef to that line. And then going to get Jordan Hancock, the other corner from Ohio State. Both those guys, in my opinion, were graded pretty similar. Jordan Hancock was the lesser of the two, but not by much. There's just a few things that he didn't do as well, but he's somebody that will come in and play right away. And then Dorian Strong, right? So they drafted three corners, man, because they've missed out on that position over the last few drafts. So one or two of them is going to have to hit. Getting Chase Lunt from Connecticut, I think, was phenomenal, and then getting Caden Prather from Maryland. He's a very productive receiver, and they kind of showed us last year. It doesn't matter the receivers you have. You got Josh Allen, you got a
Josh
chance.
Allen.
So
Yep.
I think they strengthened. I think they strengthened their defense, and I think they'll ball out next year, man. They're going to be a competitive team as long as Josh Allen's there.
All right. Let's go back to Florida, but this time we're going to Miami. Uh, Miami Dolphins select Kenneth Grant with their first overall pick, defensive tackle, who is going to be their Christian Wilkins replacement. And some people thought, hey, maybe they reached a little bit on Kenneth Grant here. That maybe he would have been available a little bit later. You could have traded back and still got him. But I like the pick for them because I understand the vision of what they're trying to do. Right? They have been very public about the fact that they wanted to resign Christian Wilkins, but they just did not want to pay the big money for him. So I think this is a good replacement for him in that build. Then they're going back and they're putting that line together. As you guys know, Tua he has demonstrated that he's not right in the head. and that he can't take two more of those lumps. So I thought them going with Jonas Sabanina, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, from guard from Arizona, bulking up some of that interior to help keep him upright, I thought was a really good thing. And then again, still trying to find that Christian Wilkinson replacement. If you're going to get Kenneth Grant, go back, double down in the fifth with Jordan Phillips. Now, they didn't have a lot of these high end picks, so you got to hope that some of these players that they're getting on the back end of the draft, they're going to be able to come in and contribute at a later time. But my favorite pick for them, and again, this is one of the guys that I said I forgot was even in this draft, is in the seventh round, pick 15. You get Quinn Ewers, who was being talked about at the top of this college season as a possible Heisman candidate going into the season. Um, I don't think anybody had Quinn Ewers going in the seventh round at the beginning of the season. I think they probably would have said maybe third or fourth round, right? And I think if you're talking at the beginning of the year, we're talking about Quinn Ewers being probably one of the three best quarterbacks in the league. At least that's what analysts were pegging him. I'm not a Quinn Ewers fan, but I think the value that you're going to get, because I do think that Quinn Ewers is a pro-ready quarterback. I don't think he has a very, very high ceiling, but I think he does a lot of things really well. I think he does good getting through his progressions and getting through his reads. I know that there was some concerns, especially after this last season, him getting banged up and staying healthy. He's had some damage to those throwing arms. Miami happens to be very familiar with quarterbacks that are banged up. But I don't think you have to worry about concussions with Quinn Ewers, right? And I think if/when Tua goes down, I feel much more comfortable with Quinn Ewers under center than I do with Zach Wilson. Call me crazy, but I think this is quietly like a steal for them.
Yeah, no, I agree a ton. Like Kenneth Grant was my favorite pick of this draft for them. It broke my heart again because that was somebody else. I was like, the Broncos to get him. We needed a guy like that, but that's going to definitely replace Christian Wilkins. And then Jonah played tackle at Arizona. That's somebody that they're moving in the guard, and he's a very athletic tackle slash guard. You know, the zone offense that they run, and then getting Jordan Phillips, man. The thing that the Dolphins, since Mike McDaniels has been there, that they've been knocked for is not being tough, right? They're a team that a lot of people weren't saying tough. Adding Kenneth Grant, adding Jordan Phillips makes his team significantly tougher their D line, and allow their edge rushers to get off. Like they got Bradley Chubb, they got a few other edge rushers out there. So I think that's something that definitely strengthened their defense. Jason Marshall, very fast cornerback from Florida. He's someone that can ball out. Dante Trader, I think, will be a rotational piece to get in there. And then Ollie Gordon was my favorite pick for them, right? Not this year at running back, but the previous year had a phenomenal year. As this year, his year wasn't as productive because their offense they lost a lot of pieces last year, but he stuck with them. He's a running back that in that zone offensive scheme can ball out. And I agree with you 100% on Quinn Ewers. Zach Wilson, I think, took some strides under Sean Payton, but I think I would like Quinn Ewers better as a Tua backup in case Tua does get hurt. Again, hopefully he stays healthy, but his history showed that he hasn't been so far. So again, I think the Dolphins had a very, very solid draft, man. Only thing I would have liked them to do that they didn't do, add a tackle. They needed a guard and a tackle. They only added a guard that they're moving from tackle. They drafted him as a guard. But other than that, man, I give this draft a solid B+ for them as well. They had a really good day.
Cool, man. We're gonna go to New England, who I think under new coach Mike Vrabel, I think is going to. I think they're going to fight Buffalo for that AFC East crown this year. I really do. I think they're going to give them everything they got. I think Buffalo will probably still come away with it, but it's not going to be for the Patriots lack of trying. And if I also think that if the Patriots have another draft like they did this year, I don't think it's going to be too long before the Patriots start becoming real contenders season in and out again. But they started off with Will Campbell, right? This is Mike Vrabel. We should have known he was gonna go for trenches before he goes for weapons, right? He wants that stuff fortified. He has what he believes is a franchise quarterback in Drake May, who I believe is also a franchise quarterback. You want to protect, you got to protect the most important player on the field. So he goes and gets Will Campbell. But then on top of that, he goes and gets one of a quarterback's best friends, Travion Henderson, running back from Ohio State, right? So that way all the pressure isn't going to be on Drake May. This is a guy that was super flexible in college. Between him and Quinshon Judkins, like they just generated offense for the Ohio State Buckeyes all last season. I expect him to continue to do that. This is a guy that playing in the state of Ohio, right? He's not adverse to playing in the cold. When we get into some of those winter months, November, October, December, all of those things. And then again, Kyle Williams, wide receiver. I love Kyle Williams out of Washington State. New England has been starving for some weapons, and I think that he's going to be a true weapon for Drake May. Then the third, going back in the third round to the offensive line, grabbing Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. Again, this is just another effort to get physical at the point of attack, also to keep Drake May upright. Uh, I thought that they just had a really, really great draft, and it's very, very clear to me what the vision that Mike Vrabel has for this New England Patriots team.
No, absolutely. One of the quotes from Mike Vrabel was, "If the film from what Will Campbell did to him comes out, somebody's getting fired." Right? He said he wanted to put his hands on all these guys he was looking at. And Will Campbell was very physical. People said his short arms, whatever the case is. Will Campbell said, "Short arms do harm. Doesn't matter." Patriots and four. And I think that was a phenomenal pick for them. Travion Henderson, I hated that pick for them because I wanted him to fall to Denver. But he's going to be somebody that comes in right away. And if you think about the offense when Vrabel was there on that team, they had Corey Dillon. They always had some kind of good running back. Travion Henderson will be able to come in. He is a powerful back that has speed, right? He's more of a one-cut elusive back, but he is powerful. Kyle Williams is a smooth route runner, man. I think that was an underrated pickup for him. For them, I think I would have liked to see them add a tight end in the draft, but somebody a route runner like him will help a quarterback out as much as a tight end will. And I think Gerald Wilson. This wasn't a deep center draft, but he is the best center that was in this draft. And I think he has a very good chance to come in and compete for a starting job. And then Joshua Farmer from Florida State is an absolute dog. He's somebody that will immediately be a rotation piece on their defensive line, eventually turn into a starter for them. And the last two picks I'm going to talk about was Andreas Borregales from Miami, the best kicker in this draft. Dude has an absolute cannon for a leg. Like Cam had a cannon for an arm. He has a cannon for a leg. He's somebody that will make that roster. He can kick. Time is what I heard. Most long snappers are undrafted free agents. He actually got drafted in the 7th round from Vanderbilt. Shout out to Vanderbilt. We know they don't put out a lot of NFL talent, but I think I think they're moving in a direction. I don't think this year they're going to compete right in that division, but if these players hit, they got the foundation of a team that's going to be successful in the future, right? I think they added a lot of pieces to that, and I think they're going to give, like you said, Buffalo and the rest of the teams in that division all right away because you know how Mike Vrabel coaches. So definitely shout out to New England on the draft that they had.
All right, man. Wrapping up our AFC East teams, it's going to be the New York Jets. Eric Glenn puts his first stamp on his new team. I say new team, old team, new team, right? Say familiar face, new job. And he goes right to work, kind of in the same mold that they did when they were rebuilding Detroit from the ashes, right? They go and get an offensive tackle out of Missouri, Ahmad Mimbu, who I really, really love. He's one of the I think he was probably like my second favorite tackle in this draft. And then at tight end, they go get Mason Taylor, who, if you're a Colston Loveland guy, if you're a Tyler Warren guy, like I had Mason Taylor in the top 4 of tight ends in this draft. I know a lot of people had Harold Fannin Jr. and Elijah Arroyo rounding that out, but I had Mason Taylor in there. Azare Thomas, corner for them. I again, they have 2 really good corners, and I know Sauce had a down year, but we've seen what's been happening in the league, and I think Aaron Glenn, this is part of this is maybe some PTSD from Detroit, right? Where last year he had some of his more prominent defensive players go down early on him, and they had to make do with whatever they had. So he wants to go ahead and get some depth there. They went and added Arian Smith from Georgia, another weapon for them out there on the perimeter. Malachi Moore, big safety out of Alabama as well. Most of the time, if you're getting an Alabama product off of defense, they're going to be about as pro ready as you can be. So it should be a minor adjustment. He'll get in and get some rotations right away. I really liked what the Jets did. They were in and out by the fifth round. So I think they got the best available, bang for their buck there.
No, I agree 100%. They're going to have two tackles that are going to be bookends for the next decade, right? With Amard Mimbu and then Fashanu that they drafted last year in the top 15. Mason Taylor, a definite athlete. He's the best overall tight end right now as far as he can block, he can catch. He has to get better at receiving a little bit. But he is a dog, makes some plays. Azariah Thomas from Florida State's a guy that I think can come in and compete for a starting job. Potentially kick down one of their corners, not obviously Saucy, false, whatever, but kick the other corner down into the slot a little bit. Arian Smith is a fast receiver that I think they could potentially develop. He didn't produce like you might have expected him to produce for the mindset. Definitely somebody that could turn to a weapon in the future. And Malachi Moore, like you said, could come in and start right away. Now, I definitely want to hit on my two guys from Miami, Tyler Barron and Francisco Magua. I always mess his name up. His brother's a starting tackle for us. He'll come out next year in the draft. He'll probably be a first round pick, but he's a dog. He's an old school linebacker. And Tyler Barron is a pass rushing specialist, right? I don't know if they needed more of that with the Jets, but it never hurts to have too many pass rushers. I definitely give them a solid B for their draft. They needed a few more picks, but they were able to double down the fourth, double down the fifth. They still had a really good draft, in my opinion.
Right. Let's move on to our final division of the show, the AFC West. And I say the best for last, brother, just because it's you, and I know this is your favorite thing in the world to talk about, AFC West. But we're going to talk about it with one of your least favorite teams. That's where we're going to start, the Kansas City Chiefs. That's where we're going to start. I'll have you take it away, sir.
Man, honestly, in my opinion, they had probably the best draft this year, and it hurt my heart, man, because you look at where their weaknesses were. Josh Simmons, without that patella tendon injury, would have likely been a top five draft pick in this draft. He's going to be the best pro as long as he comes back healthy. That'll be a bookend for Patrick Mahomes until he retires. Omar Nomer Lot, that's going to be another. He's another big guy, man. 6'5", 320-ish from Tennessee. He's a very good run stopper. He's working on some pass rusher moves. He's not the best pass rusher, but that's something he can develop, right? And he's learning from the best D tackle in the NFL probably right now. Ashton Gillette's another guy on the outside that can come in, give them some good pass rushes. He's a phenomenal run defender. And then Noah Williams from California is somebody that can come in and earn a starter spot for them. Again, they were a little bit weaker at corner. Jalen Royals, man, is a very underrated receiver. He came out of Utah State. A lot of people might not know about this guy, but phenomenal route runner, phenomenal yards after the catch, right? He's definitely quick. So that's somebody that can come out and ball it right away. And then Bashard Smith from SMU. He was a receiver at Miami, transferred to SMU when Brett Lashley went there and turned into a running back and rushed for 1,000 yards or just shy of 1,000 yards. So that's a dual threat running back for them, man. He's going to be a Samaje Perine replacement for them as he develops. They hit that draft out of the park, man. I think they might have had the AFC West had a bunch of good drafts, and they probably had the best draft because they hit on some of those positions that they were obvious weaknesses, right? They doubled down at tackle from free agency and the draft, and they not only doubled down, but they probably got the best offensive tackle in this draft.
All right, man. We're gonna go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Uh, Las Vegas Raiders, man. This is my grandfather's team. It's my good brother Marshall's favorite team. So I always keep an eye on what the Raiders are doing. And I know Raiders fans all over the nation were watching and waiting at pick six. Would this be the same old Raiders team where they overthink the draft, or would they just take the obvious, best available here? And I think that's what they did when they took Ashton Genty at pick six. Now you're going to be forced to hate watch him for the next few seasons. But I really, Pete Carroll gets his version of Marshawn Lynch for the Las Vegas Raiders. It's not nearly as physical as Marshawn, but has that home run threat ability. He's an every down back. He's really great out of the backfield as well. And then I really like what they went back to and got some more weapons with Jack Beck, man. I think he's a he's an underrated receiver out of TCU. Like, I don't think I know they had his story about after his brother had passed away and he still showed up to the game and he ended up playing, but I don't think he got enough recognition and enough love for how well he played for TCU this season. And then Darian Porter, we know that DBs have been an issue for Vegas for a long time. I think he's one of the better ones coming out of Iowa State. So that improves the weakness for them. Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant and on back-to-back picks, helping fortify that line, keeping Geno Smith upright, also helping to clear the way for Ashton Genty. And then Tonka Hemingway. I really like Tonka Hemingway uh, out of South Carolina. I thought he's going to be a great rotational piece on their defensive front. Probably going to be one of those people that gets Christian Wilkinson a breath or goes in on some of those third down run stopping packages. Then I thought they kind of went off the rails in the sixth round a little bit, but I love them coming back and getting one of my favorite linebackers in the draft that I thought was great value at the position in the seventh round. Cody Lindenberg, 6'2" out of Minnesota, 236 pounds. Like, really enjoyed watching some of his tape this year. Overall, I thought this was a really solid draft for the Raiders, and I think it definitely harkens a new era in Raiders football. They look much more confident than they have, and I would argue that this is probably the best draft that they've had in at least the last 5 years.
No, I'd agree 100%. Ashton Genty was my favorite running back in college this year. He has to go to the team I hate more than any team. I think I stopped the draft and threw up a little bit and came back and watched the rest of it. But phenomenal pick for them. Jack Beck, you hit that on the head. And then Darren Porter, we know how Pete Carroll's defense will really, even with the DBs they had, which that was their biggest weakness, his scheme really helps out DBs in general. Darren Porter will come in or start right away for them. I think the rest of their draft, besides Tonka Hemingway and JJ Pegasus, are going to like really feature players because their line was a little bit underrated. Their line was solid last year, right? Colton Miller came on, etc. Their line was very solid, but Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant give them some depth. Charles Grant's going to need a couple years coming from William and Mary to develop into a starter, but he's somebody that'll be a swing tackle his first year or so. He's somebody that will take a starting job, probably a right tackle for them in a few years. And Dante Thornton, man, big receiver, bit fast, absolute beast. So they had a phenomenal draft as well, man. They had a draft that made me mad, and you could definitely tell it's a new regime. Pete Carroll and Tom Brady definitely had their fingerprints all over this draft.
Right, man. Let's go back to LA, to the people that are renting space in my stadium, the Los Angeles Chargers. Uh, what did you make of their draft, man? I think they continue to Harbaugh continues to make this team in his image.
Yeah, man, their draft was phenomenal as well. Like I'm just looking at all these drafts, and I'm like, this should maybe stick to my stomach. Amarian Hampton, doubling down with him and getting from the Steelers Najee Harris, I think is
Mhm.
going to be phenomenal. Definitely going to pound the rock. Trey Harris, I know somebody that you wanted for the Rams. I texted you like, hey, he'll still be in LA. That guy, he reminds me of Cortland Sutton. He's going to go get the ball. He attacks it. He was about 70-30 on 50-50 balls, right? And Jamari Caldwell from Oregon, 6'6", 320-pound run stepper. That's the guy that they've been looking for a while that they haven't been able to find that D tackle. And then Kyle Kennard, I think, will develop into a Joey Bosa replacement. He's not going to come out this year and be the level of Joey Bosa, but that's somebody that has a lot of upside. And then Oronde Gaston from Syracuse, 6'5", 230-pound tight end. He played kind of receiver / tight end, and that's a weapon that they use as well. So that Justin Herbert, again, this is an offense that they took away a lot of excuses. They're going to absolutely pound the rock. They added some weapons. Trey Harris, I think, is going to be what they wanted. I'm trying to his name escaping me right now, but their other physical receiver that had some drops, all other stuff. He's going to be what he was supposed to be. He's really a Cortland Sutton clone, in my opinion. I thought they had a phenomenal draft, man. It was up there with the Raiders, a little bit behind KC, but they definitely made strength stronger and they improved a few weaknesses with like a Rondé Gaston. So
Yeah, man. If nothing else, they're gonna run through your face. Like Harbaugh said, you're gonna have to play me for all 4 quarters. So you better make sure that your mouthpieces are in and that your chest straps are buckled because you're gonna be for a fight when you're squaring up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Uh, but I think my favorite pick for them, you're probably gonna think, oh, it was definitely the Trey Harrison pick. No, my favorite pick for them was the Kyle Kennard pick. And that's not to say that he's the best pick for them, but I think you hit it on the head. Like, this is a guy that I think they drafted with the intention to replace Joey Bosa, and I think them retaining the services of Khalil Mack for another year, he gets to learn from one of the better pros in the league, and he has time to grow. Like, the expectation for him isn't going to come in and be the guy right away, but this is a guy that if he's going to be a quick study. I think you'll start seeing him contribute meaningful snaps about halfway to the season, and we'll really start to see him come into his own on the back half. But like you said, this is a draft that was about getting some more help for Justin Herbert and removing some of those excuses and making sure that come, down the stretch in the playoff time, that it's not all on his arm, right? So Harbaugh's going to do, he's going to beat you up physically at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They're going to pound the rock, but now he's got I think he has his running back of the future. So Amarian Hampton's, I think he's going to terrorize that division for a while. Him and Genty are going to be disgusting.
Absolutely.
All right. This is your moment. Get your soapbox. Say what you need to say. Talk about your beloved Denver Broncos.
Yeah, man, I liked our draft. I didn't love our draft, but I did like it. The pick I loved the most was our first one, Jahdae Barron. He's not somebody that I had a feeling we were going to add a corner. I didn't think Jahdae Barron would fall to us. Honestly, I thought he would have went a little bit earlier. But he's a playmaker. He's somebody that can play safety. He can play the slot. He can play corner. We dealt with a lot of injuries at corner this year. Besides PS2, PS2 is even out for a game with a concussion, but Riley Moss is out for a while, etc. So he's somebody that no matter what's happening in our defense, he can kind of come in and play that secondary. You can't have too many people in the secondary. RJ Harvey, I like a lot, right? The thing I don't like is them drafting RJ Harvey lets me know that the Broncos believe that Audric Estime is going to be like our bell cow back. So RJ Harvey has hands, man. He can definitely catch. He's going to be a productive fantasy running back. I think if he actually ends up starting, which I hope he does, and not just to change. We know Sean Payton's going to use two backs, but I hope he's kind of the mainstay. If he is that for us, he had over 20 runs last year of 10 yards or more, or 30 runs last year or 10 yards or more. So definitely an explosive back, and that's something we've been missing for a while. Pat Bryant, I like the player. I think we overdrafted him. I think that's somebody we could have got day 3 for sure. He's physical. He runs routes well. He has strong hands. He is not fast. I think he ran close to like a 4.6 40. Not bad for an average person. Not good for an NFL receiver. He has to be able to create separation. So again, I think he's a good player. And I think him learning behind Cortland Sutton is going to do nothing but good. Savion Jones, man, from LSU, that was one of my favorite defensive ends. 6'3", 280, a solid 3-4 defensive end. We have Zach Allen in the final year of his contract, right? So that's a good replacement to learn from him. Hopefully we bring Zach Allen back, but if we don't bring him back, Savion Jones is somebody I think can step in. And then getting Q Robinson, man. I thought we were deep at edge. I think we're deep at pass rusher. We had to like send off Darren Browning because we had so many people at edge. But Q Robinson's a strictly a pass rusher. He can help on special teams. And I don't think you can ever have too many people to get off the pass rusher. And then shout out to Jeremy Crashaw, the 10th Aussie to ever be drafted in the NFL. Best punter in this draft. That is a position that we had literally 0 punters on our roster, so I had a feeling we were going to take them. Didn't have the best net because of some of these returns and coverage that Florida had, but he has an absolute boot. And then Caleb Lohner from Utah was a basketball player, right? That moved to tight end. He had 4 catches, 4 touchdowns in his career at Utah last year. So that's somebody that Sean Payton hearing him talk about it has a lot of upside. I think that we'll be able to develop him because we absolutely needed a tight end. I think we should have took one sooner. Evan Ingram, while that was a great signing because he had a lot of injuries. So hopefully he develops in this one. Everybody's not going to be Antonio Gates. Everybody's like, Antonio Gates played basketball, Tony Gonzalez played basketball, right? But he has some athletic traits. He didn't get invited to the combine. He did do the conference pro day, the Big 12 pro day, and I heard he balled out there. It was very athletic. So definitely Broncos. I think we had the worst draft in our division. I'm not saying it was a bad draft. I just think our division had a phenomenal draft. It was really like the AFC West and the NFC East. I think they had the 2 best drafts. Actually, I shout out the NFC West, man. They had a phenomenal draft as well. But those three divisions drafted very well. Jade Barron mixes straight to straight. RJ Harvey, if he does what I want him to do, hopefully he does, and this draft will be a success, and we'll see how the rest of it develops. But I'm happy with the draft. I think we could have done a few things, and I like a few of the UDFAs we got. So I'm definitely excited to see how these boys ball out at rookie mini camp and the preseason. I'm definitely going to go check those out a little bit, and we'll do some coverage from there as well.
All right, man. Well, it's been a long one, but I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a chance for any kind of final thoughts, anything from the draft that kind of stuck out to you, things you want to talk about. I know there's people probably wanted to talk about the Shedeur Sanders situation. I don't know what we can say that already hasn't been said. The thing that I found kind of the most ridiculous is what's happening right now is him along with several other players just coming out. We're being prank called uh, by defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbricht's son, Jackson Ulbricht. Like, I don't know. I don't know what should happen in this situation. I know Jeff Ulbrich is probably embarrassed as all get out. You're like your son's 21 years old doing prank calls on people that are, aspiring to live out their dream, and the best use of his time is to prank call. And like, I think it's completely ridiculous. I think there needs to be some level of accountability beyond just an apology. Uh, and I get it, right? It's not like Jeff instructed his son to do that, but clearly, right, there was a breach in protocol. Like, how is your son able to obtain this information to get this number? Like, you're trusted with this information, and somehow was made accessible to your son when he was visiting you at your house. I don't know. I find the whole situation completely unacceptable. And I think something has to happen. There needs to be greater accountability than I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the topic I'm gonna go for final thoughts is congratulations to everybody that got drafted. Congratulations to every UDFA. They all had that dream at high school, going into college, that they could play professionally, and to see those guys be able to get drafted, to be able to compete, to make a roster, to be able to compete and make a living playing the game that we love. I mean, it's a kid's game, and these guys get to do this for a living and get paid handsomely to do it. We get to talk about it, right? And as fans, so we're definitely excited for everybody that got drafted, and I definitely want to give a shout out to Shedeur. He went through some adversity. Definitely excited to see him compete as well, and hopefully your team does well. Unless you're a Raiders fan, shout out to you, Marshall. I know you're going to watch. One of our first viewers, our good buddy Marshall, your brother Marshall. So definitely shout out to you, man, and thank y'all for tuning in with us for our second episode of In the Pocket.
Yeah, bro. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the In the Pocket podcast. We appreciate you guys rocking with us. I know it was a long one, but there's 32 teams, and y'all had a lot of picks. Again, new episodes of In the Pocket drop every single Monday here on YouTube. We are working on getting the Apple Podcast and the Spotify coming up. So don't get caught outside the pocket. Go ahead and click the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell, so that way you can see when the new episodes drop during the season. Who knows? We might have a few surprise episodes drop for you as the season goes. But we appreciate all of our first subscribers. We appreciate anybody who's given us time out of their day to come and listen to it ramble on about football. Love you all. We'll catch you all on the next episode of In the Pocket Podcast.